Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the ServiceGuru Stock Management add-on for ServiceM8, understand a little bit about how it works and how we use it. So we're going to start off jumping in and having a look at the Stock Manager in action to sort of get an understanding of what it does and how we use it, and then we'll go back and have a look at how we set it up and configure it to use within your business. So we're going to start off with a scenario that we have a job and we are going to go and carry out work for this particular job. But first we need to make sure that we have the stock to do that work. So we're going to go ahead and open up the job card, and with this particular account we've already got the Stock Manager installed. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to see that we have a gas oven for this install as our only stock item. Now, of course, we can have as many as sort of items as we need within our quoting and invoicing section, and you'll see what happens when we add items to this particular part of the system. So we've only got one item to start with, and we can go ahead and click on our add-ons button, and we can go and have a look and see whether we require any stock. So the system understands who we are and what stock we have available allocated to us, and we'll have a look at how we allocate stock as we go through the system. So the first thing that the system returns to us is it will tell us what stock is required. So it says to us that on this particular job we have one item that is in fact not within our stock or in our van. So we create a van and associate it with a staff member, and then the system will have a look into that and see what stock is in that particular warehouse, or what we refer to as a mobile warehouse or a van. So here you can see we've got an oven. We require an oven on the job card. It is not an item we have in stock, and so the first step in this process is to go ahead and request this item to be ordered. So we're going to go and put a stock request in. We put a tick in the box to say we're going to need one of these to carry out this job, and we go ahead and click the request stock button. So we click that button over there, and it will go around and say that our stock has been requested. So now what's going to happen is the person who's in charge of stock is going to receive an email to say that they've got a new stock request. So if we come on over to the add-on and we open up the Stock Manager, what we're going to notice is that this individual, ourselves in this case, has requested stock, and so the Stock Manager will be able to go and open up the system and see that there's been one gas oven that has been requested. And so at this stage we've got a choice. We can either say yes, we can approve that request, or we can remove that request if it was made in error. But in this instance we're going to say we're going to approve that request. The system now gives us the option to go ahead and add it to a purchase order. So now we've got the stock. We've got this item that we want to add to this particular individual's stock, but the first thing we have to do is go and order it because it doesn't exist in stock anywhere. So we're going to go and add that to a purchase order. We put a tick in the add to purchase order item over here, and then we're going to go ahead and generate a purchase order for this particular unit. So when we click on the purchase order, generate purchase order, it's going to open up our purchase order generator window. We go ahead and select the supplier, and so we're going to go and select ABC here. We want this to be fulfilled by tomorrow for ourselves, and we can add some notes if we need to communicate additional information to this particular supplier. Once we're happy with what we've set out over here, we can go and generate the purchase order, and what that will do is it will grab that item and it will place it into a purchase order for us. At this stage we have got one or two choices. We can either download or print this particular purchase order and manually pass that or assign that to a supplier, or we have the option of automatically emailing that to the supplier so that they can go ahead and process that order for us. What I'm going to do is just quickly show you. We're going to run through the scenario as if we've placed this order and the purchase order has been sent to the supplier, and the supplier is going to process this for us. So what you'll notice that if we click on the purchase order tab, we can see that we've got a purchase order pending now, as we've sent one off to the particular supplier. If we click and open up this purchase order, you can see this is the item that we have requested. In the system we already have got a price for this, and you can see here that we've got a big green button that says we mark it as received. So our supplier comes and delivers our gas oven to our warehouse, and the person responsible will then mark this item as received. So we click on the mark received button, and the first thing you'll notice over here is that we can now allocate the stock. So we can create many stock locations, whether it be a warehouse or a van, and we can now allocate the stock to that particular destination. So we're going to go down to the drop down. We're going to go and allocate it to the SG20 registration of the van, And so we're going to move that stock into that location. Now, before I do so, if we've received the stock from our supplier and we notice that there has been a change in both or either the cost price and the price that we want to sell it for, we can make those amendments, and when we allocate that stock, it will update our price list within ServiceM8. So very useful to make sure that you're offering the correct pricing as prices move up or down through the course of your trading period. So we're going to go and allocate that stock. And you can see now that the purchase order has been marked as received and the stock has been allocated to our van with the registration SG20. At this stage, we can go back into the job and continue to work through the job as we would as the technician on this job site. Within our stock section or tab, we can see that this particular vehicle has got stock allocated to it. You can see that we've got the oven there, and we also have a reporting system, but we'll jump into those in a short while. So let's go ahead and go back to this particular job, and we are going to go and open up this job card over here, and we are going to start working on this particular job. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab that item from our van, and so we're going to go over to our stock where it says my stock within the add-on drop-down. And please bear in mind that this works on the field app as it does on the office side that I'm showing you now. So a technician out in the field can carry out everything that we're seeing so far. So over here you can see that we've got the oven that is in our stock and it's on the job, and as soon as we remove that out of the van, we want to go ahead and apply that we've removed that stock item. So we're going to go and say we've removed the tick stock, and what the system will do now is we'll now debit that stock out of our location, our van, and we can close that window. Now, if we needed other parts and materials that our van was stocked with, and if that stock was present on the van, we could run through the same function and remove those items from our van. If we removed an item that wasn't on our quotes and invoicing section over here, so let's say we removed some gas pipe, for example, it was in stock in the van, it was recorded as stock in the van, and we went into my stock and we removed it from stock. If it's not listed on the job card, it will automatically apply it into the job card for you, and then you can decide whether you want to charge the customer for that item or not. But really the thinking behind this is that you'll never forget to charge a customer for an item which has come out of the van. So as your team start to work through and remove items from their warehouse or their van location, that information is being recorded on the job card. So we're going to go ahead and close this particular job card. And what we'll notice now, if we go back into our stock management section and we go and have a look at stock, and we have a look at this vehicle stock over here, you can actually see that we don't have any stock items in this particular vehicle because that stock had been removed and used within that particular job. We also have our reporting section over here, so we can go and have a look at our various stock locations. We can go and look at multiple stock locations and produce a stock report that we can then download as a CSV and use it in an audit. If we want to go and carry out an audit for either a van or a warehouse or a collection of those. And we also have a stock movement log, which will show us when we have moved stock between different warehouses or locations within the system. So you can see here that we've had a stock change, the timestamp is recorded, which staff member, and the reason for moving that stock from one location to other, and it will tag the job number in there as well. And so this is really useful to go and produce a report. It is done through a date range, so you can pull out very specific information, and you can see that this is when the stock came in. And you can see over here, this is when the stock was removed, and it was removed to be used on this particular job. And so you've got a very comprehensive view as a business as to where your stock is coming, where is it moving to and from. And if you had to transfer stock between two staff members, that's carried out on the application as well. And that would also be included within the stock movement report. You could see that one team member has transferred stock out of his stock to another team member. And bear in mind that team members can only transfer stock away from themselves. They can't automatically transfer. They can't go and help themselves to stock, let's say, out of the warehouse. That needs to be assigned out of whoever's been assigned the control of that particular location. So that was just a very brief run through of how we use the stock manager to track and move stock through the system. In summary, what we're able to do is have a look at whether we require any stock on a job that isn't already in our vans. We can then request that stock to be ordered on our behalf. That order can then be created into the form of a purchase order, sent off to a supplier. When that stock is received, it is allocated and the price can be adjusted. And once it has been allocated, it will then be available for that staff member to take out of their stock. And once that action's been fulfilled, or that install has been carried out on the job, and that item has been removed and marked as removed by the staff member from their van, that information will all be collated under your reports, and so you'll be able to get full visibility of where your stock is, where it's been moved to, and which jobs it's been used on. Okay, so that's essentially the stock manager in a nutshell. We're just going to go ahead and have a look at a couple of the setup processes that you need to carry out in order to make sure that this all works very, very smoothly. The good news is it's very simple. The first thing that we need to go ahead and do in the system is make sure that we have stock locations. So your stock location is the area that you are assigning a staff member to. A typical example is a vehicle, and so our recommendation is to place the registration of that vehicle and then assign it to a staff member. So if we go and have a look at this particular location, what we can see here is that we've got the name of the location, so we want to name it something recognizable. It could be van 1 and then the registration number, but our recommendation is always place the registration number, and then you want to assign it to a staff member. Something to pay attention to is if you haven't given a staff member a location, they don't have stock to get stock from, and so when you go into request stock or my stock, it will be empty because they don't have a stock location. So please make sure that you've assigned every staff member a stock location, otherwise they'll be unable to use the system. As mentioned, the location is simply created by going to create a new location, filling in those details and allocating that to a staff member. As you can see within our example over here, we can have a warehouse as a stock location, and you can assign an individual to be the manager of the warehouse. So if you want a scenario where you receive stock and that stock is then held on your behalf, and then allocated out to the team before, or they need to come and collect it, they can certainly do that. You can also have a scenario where your team members are going to go and collect that from a supplier, and all they need to do is notify you that they're doing so, and whoever's responsible for running the stock management side of your business, they will just mark that stock as allocated, as we saw within the purchase order system. Right, so we've got our locations. Make sure that every staff member has a location if you want them to use the stock element within the application. The next bit that we need to configure is our suppliers. We aren't able to generate a purchase order unless we have our suppliers set up. So please go ahead and make sure that you've added at least one supplier within your system so that you're able to generate a purchase order request and allocate that to a supplier. You'll see that you have all of the usual details, and when you go in to configure that, make sure that you've got all the information, as this is what will be sent out or added to your purchase order document, and that gets emailed out to when you request materials and parts from your various supply chain. Then again, popping over to settings, you will have configured these on your onboarding, but just make sure that you have got your billing address. You've got some information displayed at the bottom of your purchase order. This could be terms and conditions or specific arrangements that you want to have with your supplier. So just make sure that you've got that information. It will be displayed at the bottom of your purchase order. And then you can add or create an email body for the emails that are going to go out to your supplier. So make sure those are compiled and are within the system, ready to go out. You can also have a BCC for your accounts department to make sure that they're up to date with all purchase orders that are being sent out to your supply chain. So that pretty much rounds out the stock manager. It is a very simple, easy to use system. It does require everybody within the team to do their bit in terms of ordering, allocating stock, and then removing stock from their particular location or vehicle. But we do make it very easy to run audit by having our report section where you can go and download a report, go and pull up a particular location, and then just go and validate that that stock is active and is being reported correctly. With that, should you have any questions or need any assistance with the Stock Manager, please do not hesitate to contact us at support@serviceguru.co.uk.